Hey family, my name is Christopher Griffiths and I'm extremely proud to share with you Underdogs Rise, the podcast that I decided to create after going through my own battles and experiencing anxiety on all levels to the point where I would freeze and not do anything, loss of relationships, attempted suicide, heartbreak, and ultimately a deep loss of connection within myself. I battled drug addiction for almost 2 decades, and I overthought and overanalyzed every single conversation that I ever had, freezing when I needed to speak up, hid what I was feeling from myself and also people that I loved, and I pretended to be fine when inside I was dying. I wouldn't even look at myself in the mirror. I hated myself. I didn't recognise myself for so many years. So this podcast, Underdogs Rise, is so personal to me because I have always seen myself as an underdog. You see, all of this ultimately came from heartbreak and pain, as we have all experienced that on some level. And this is just about my experiences and what this allowed me to let this grow into purpose. And through this podcast, it's like therapy, that I'm bearing my soul to whoever listens, and we go on this journey together, and ultimately we rise together, hand in hand, heart to heart, person to person, and we help each other rise. You see, this is a podcast where we get honest about anxiety, confidence, healing, and what it actually takes to rebuild your life from the inside out. And if you're listening right now, I want you to know this. I have been where you have been, and I've been there for decades. I didn't just start this podcast because I believed I had all the answers. I started it because for such a long time I didn't have a clue who I was or how to deal with my anxiety, how to deal with me. And what was happening deep within inside of me, the conflict, the struggle, the sense of loss, not appreciating myself, not seeing what other people were seeing within me. This is where I knew I had to do the real inner and deep work, which I still do to this day. So we all have this inner voice, our inner critic, that's been there from when we were very young. The one that would criticise us, tell us that we're not good enough, we're not worthy, we're not deserving. And I listened to that voice for decades of my life, through going through my own conditioning and my own experiences and my own interpretations. This is me not blaming anyone. This is me ultimately wanting to get to a stage where I'm blaming no one, and that includes myself. You see, I have always considered myself to be an underdog. Not in a dramatic way, just that feeling of being overlooked, misunderstood and underestimated, even by my very own self. You see, my anxiety did that to me. And that anxiety was cultivated by myself, but also through my experiences. And that over decades that I had, in part, had convinced myself through the habits that I had partaken in and my behaviours that I had partaken in for decades. See, even now, saying this all to you, I have parts of me that's screaming out loud not to share this. You're not good enough. Who's going to listen to your voice? See, that's what anxiety does to you. It makes you doubt everything in your life. It makes you doubt what you want to say. It makes you doubt how you want to feel. Or say too much. Or overshare. Because that anxiety is crippling. Makes you so nervous. Every part of my body feels like it's on fire when I was experiencing heightened senses of anxiety, to the point where I would just completely detach from reality. Ultimately, it was avoidance behaviour because I didn't want to embrace the discomfort. Because I used to really believe that there was something really deeply wrong with me. And it took me decades to realise there actually wasn't anything wrong with me. I wasn't broken. I just didn't understand myself enough. And my story continues. You see, anxiety wasn't the enemy, as I once believed. It was my compass. It was pushing me towards the parts of myself that I'd ignored for so long. My fears, my beliefs, my wounds, my voice, my worth, and my heart. This was an everyday battle, challenging my narrative and making myself believe that I could change. The day I realised that I could do that, I started to pay attention instead of running away, which is something that I did for such a long time. I learned how to slow down my breathing, learned how to speak up even when my voice wasn't perfect. I'm still working on this, but learned how to stop oversharing and to express myself with intention and desire. Because what I have found over my time is that intention is the catalyst for so many wonderful things in our life. And every time that I did that, and there were days when I didn't, but they're the days that I don't focus on, which took me time to learn how to do that. But when I did, something powerful happened over time. I did become more myself, and I started to actually notice my worth. You see, this podcast is also helping me rediscover parts of me that I ignored. And I wish for us to heal together. I want that for everyone that listens, to heal, to be on this journey together as a family. You see, that's where the magic is. Success is all about relationships. So please join me as we go through this journey together. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. This is an African proverb that I became aware of. Each time that I read it out, it just reminds me the importance of doing things together. I used to think that I had to face anxiety on my own, and I did for many years. And looking back on that time of my life when I was doing that, it was wrong. It was wrong of me. It was selfish. If I had just opened up and spoken about how I was feeling, not be too concerned about what other people would be thinking or their response. It was always more important for me to understand myself, and that's all I ever wanted, was understanding. Because sometimes, and it was no fault of anyone else's, I felt so misunderstood. If it's okay with you, I'd like to share something with you. It's called the 3-degree north shift. Because just like a compass, it doesn't swing wildly. Yet we have all had moments in our lives like that. It shifts a few degrees at a time, and that is enough to change your entire direction. So when you feel anxiety rise, repeat this to yourself out loud. This is not helping. While saying this out loud, take one slow, deep breath. This helps interrupt the panic response, and this also calms our nervous system. You can either also notice something around you that you can touch. That could be your clothes, the chair, your hands, and also tell yourself, we're safe. You see, anxiety isn't just a feeling. It becomes a whole atmosphere. It narrows your thinking. It makes you grind harder when you're already exhausted. It also craves overstimulation and control. It makes you keep pushing when something isn't actually working, because you've convinced yourself over time, and your brain, your inner voice, your inner critic has convinced you that stopping equals failure. There is no failure. This took me a long time to realise. There is only learning, and we can also use this as a reframe. And this is something that I do. You see, I lived in that failure. I've ignored the signs, and I've even worn that struggle like armour. You see, anxiety taught me to be rigid. It convinced me that speaking up wasn't safe. It also made me overshare in some situations and completely shut down in others. It made me chase external validation, because inside, I didn't feel enough. And I know I'm not the only one. Anyone listening to this, you're not broken, you're human. This is what our survival mind, our inner critic, our anxiety, our ego wants us to think. This is all learnt behaviour. This is habitual things that we have done day in and day out, and it's all about rewriting that over time. This is not going to be an overnight fix. It's about consistency and showing up for yourself day in and day out. And this only takes minutes over the course of the day. And this, over time, helps you get to your authentic self, helps you get back home. You see, I realised that I couldn't outwork my anxiety. I had to understand it. It wasn't the enemy as I thought it once was. It was a signal, a protector, a part of me that was just sick and tired of playing the same old character, which was carrying everything else alone. See, there were 3 signs I needed to stop pushing, and here's what anxiety taught me. When the task wasn't working, but I kept pushing anyway. Like I said earlier, anxiety hates letting go, it wants control. When my chest felt tight and my thinking was narrow, that tunnel vision was my body begging for space. When I got reactive instead of connective. When I became irritable, withdrawn, snappy, numb. These are all signs my emotional body required some space and a pause. And then I would automatically think of the worst case scenario when I actually really wanted to change. I would always think of the worst outcome, because that is how I condition myself. If listen to these signs hit home, you're not alone. You see, here's what actually changed the game for me. Learning to pause instead of powering through. Naming what I felt instead of hiding it. Slowing my breath to slow down my thoughts. Letting myself be vulnerable in small, safe moments. And this was the biggest one. Realising shame was at the root layer beneath most of my anxiety. At least 80% of my anxiety was all due to shame. You see, when I stopped fighting my internal storms and learned to listen to them, embrace them with grace and surrender to them, my life, my world started to open up. If you're listening right now and anxiety is loud, I'd like to make you aware of this if I have your permission to. You are not behind. You are not failing. You're learning a new way to carry yourself, and that is so courageous. If I have your permission to, I'd also like to say how proud I am of you. We don't hear that enough. That I want that pride to come from your internal voice, from your inner child, from the parts of you, the versions of you that you didn't feel worthy or acceptable to be shown. For those who have listened, thank you for joining on this first episode of this season. This is a space for the underdogs, the wounded healers, the ones rebuilding themselves from the inside out. If this episode spoke to you, stay with me. This whole season is about understanding anxiety, healing shame, and strengthening emotional confidence, and rising into who you really are. From someone who has lived it, and who is still on this journey of healing. Until next time, keep walking towards your true north and massive amounts of love.